Hello YouTubers, and today I'm going to be doing a bit of a different video. I'm going to be doing an actual album review rather than just unboxing it or anything. And where to start with probably my favourite album of this year, for sure, Robbie Williams' 25. Now, this album is meant to basically be a celebration of Robbie Williams being a solo artist for 25 years. The only problem is COVID technically got in the way of that, so technically it's been 27 years. Although you could also argue, oh well, it's been 25 years since his first album, so you can argue with it either way. But yeah, here it is. So what is it? In case you didn't know, I mean, if you're living outside the UK, you probably have no idea who the hell Robbie Williams is. If you live in the UK, you most definitely will know, especially considering that this album now makes Robbie Williams the most amount of number ones in the UK. So yeah, beating Elvis's previous record. But yeah, let's talk about it. So it is a greatest hit. So basically, rather than just being a regular greatest hits where it's just, you know, all the singles and that, or all the like number one singles put into a compilation, this is some of the most iconic singles, but re-recorded with an orchestra. I can't talk today, can you tell? So I'm just going to go through some of the tracks and that and just see what I think of this. Do note though, there are several versions of this album. Now on vinyl, you can only get this as basically the standard edition, where it's just the 19 tracks. Whereas if you purchase it on CD, there is a deluxe edition CD where you get a second disc which has an extra 10 tracks. Hopefully one day that'll get a release on vinyl or even cassette. But at the minute it's only available digitally and on CD. So yeah, I'm going to talk about the main thing itself and then talk about the deluxe extra tracks. So yeah, Let Me Entertain You is the song that starts off this album. And also something I should note about the tracks is that the order and the tracks chosen were basically, you know, not massively planned out because it's Robbie Williams. And in an interview he admitted that he basically just kind of chose whatever tracks and whatever songs in whatever order he kind of woke up feeling like that day. So yeah. But Let Me Entertain You, yeah, it's a good, it suits the orchestral mix pretty well. I'd say that I'd still prefer the original a bit more, and that's the case with a lot of these. I'm not going to go through every track. I'm going to point out a few highlights in this. For example, Candy. So Candy is probably the most similar to its original in this greatest hits compared to its original one. The only thing I'd say about it is that Robbie Williams only sings the final chorus once and has the backing vocals sing it for its reprise afterwards, which yeah, I found a little bit odd, but yeah, he only sings it once in the last one. But to be honest, Candy, I legitimately prefer the version on here than I do to the original. I think it has more of an oomph to it. I also noticed on a lot of these tracks as well, sometimes Robbie Williams would tone down the vocals a bit or adjust its pitch in terms of how it was done originally. Some are pretty much the same like Candy is, but others, you know, are slightly at a lower tone and slightly, you know, a bit slower, less oomph to them, I would say, upbeat. But you know what? It works. It does work. And if you are going to do, you know, a new orchestral version, sometimes things have to be done a bit different. There's, for the most part, basically at least one track representing each album. For the most part, I'm going to say for the most part. For example, Rude Box, nothing. Rude Box is left out, and I can kind of understand why. Now, Rude Box does have a bit of a mixed reception to it. I personally really like Rude Box, but I can understand why that won't be included here. I mean, it is probably the most 2000s Robbie Williams album, and also the single itself, it's named after, is probably the most 2000 Robbie Williams song. It's very tempo, very electronic sounding, so I can understand why, you know, that would be a lot more difficult to do into an orchestral mix mind, I would love to hear of it if it ever did happen, but yeah, I can understand why, although I see he probably could have done Love Light from that album, but yeah. And also, generally missing out the Christmas present, because again, you know, that's generally just a Christmassy. I mean, could have done one, but yeah, generally, this album mainly features on Robbie Williams's first, you know, era of big albums. For example, Life Through a Lens, I've Been Expecting You, Sing When You're Winning, and Escapology all get the most amount of love here. They all get multiple tracks from each of those albums redone with an orchestra, whereas from the second sort of era of Robbie Williams hits, which is after Greatest Hits but before In and Out of Consciousness, so the second Greatest Hits, those generally just get one track each. Bodies, I think, is an interesting way of doing it, and it does kind of fit to it. Tripping, again, similar to its original version, that one kind of suits the orchestra thing a lot more to it. And I would say, in regards to which one I kind of prefer, yeah, I don't know, Tripping, I kind of flip-flop on it. I'd say it's as good as the original. Bodies is a very different experience from its original, but still pretty good, and it does have its similarities in there. Rock DJ is kind of done like the swinging type version of some songs that he did for Swing When You're Winging and Swings Both Ways. It's almost like a late 70s type swinging type version of it, and I do quite like it. I do prefer the original to it, but again, something like that you wouldn't expect to make a good orchestral mix. Yeah, it does here. Now, Lost and Nobody Someday are some of the new tracks on here. Now, if you have the deluxe version, you do get a couple more new tracks, but Lost, the new single for this release, is a fantastic track that is basically about Robbie Williams' own experiences and his own hardships, and basically, you know, in the career and the life and that he leads. And yeah, it is really good. It is really good. And you can watch him performance on various things. He did it on the Graham Norton show. And also, when this album artwork was shown, David Tennant's comment, "Is that you and the Nuddy?" If that doesn't sell you on it, then nothing will. But yeah, then we get Angels. Now, again, if you have the standard edition, there's just the one version, but if you have the deluxe, there is a Beethoven version, which is a bit slow, but also adds a bit more of an orchestral sort of vibe to it. I would say, depending on what mood I'm in, sometimes I may prefer the Beethoven one, and sometimes I may prefer the newer version. I gotta be honest, this may be sacrilege, but I actually might prefer the version of Angels on this. It kind of shows with Angels the most, because it was also the first track to be released from this. It kind of shows how Robbie Williams has changed, sort of grown, but also I think he kind of pushes the vocal on that a bit more, and it kind of flows a bit better with it. After all, Angels wasn't originally going to be the number one on Life Through a Lens. It was actually the fourth track to be released out of them. The first was Old Before I Die, I believe, if I remember rightly. So, yeah. Now, in terms of other tracks on that, I say feel, you know, tracks that already had, you know, bits of orchestra in them, generally, you know, are basically magnificent on this. I'd say the ones that weren't as much of orchestral are generally interesting. I do enjoy them, but I don't generally prefer them to their original. Again, stuff like Bodies, but a lot of these kind of do fit it. For example, Supreme is fantastic on there, and it is nice to sort of have a backing sort of vocal, so it does feel very wide. It does feel like an entire orchestra has gathered around and done it. And stuff like, if you have the deluxe edition, Sexed Up and Lazy Days sound fantastic. However, other than that and the Beethoven version of Angels, there's nothing really on the other disc, to be honest, or on the extended deluxe version that I would say is generally worth your time. I'd still say it's worth it. I would definitely say that. But it would have been nice if maybe we got a few more from, say, what I call the post Greatest Hits era, but pre In and Out of Consciousness era. That would have been nice to have on there. But again, who knows? I wouldn't be opposed to him doing another deluxe or ultimate edition where he adds another few tracks to it. The other tracks on that disc, I just wasn't really a fan of. They're just kind of there, like Misunderstood. It's just like, meh, it's okay. It's okay. I generally do this. So, yeah, generally for a different experience, though it does have a lot of similarities in there as well, like, for example, but I'd say the tracks that are some of the best on here, for example, Supreme, Road to Mandalay, I'd say hands down is better on an orchestral version of this, even though I do love the original version. I'd say some of those just bring a more grandiose sort of approach to it, so yeah, that was very rambly. Was it a good review? Was it a bad review? But yeah, there we go. That was Robbie Williams 25. I really love this album. If you'd like me to do more album reviews in the future, because again, I've done this before and who knows, I might never do it again, but let me know in the comments below. So yeah, thanks for watching.